to New York's #2 sports show. Adoree Jackson is back with the New York Giants. So this was something that makes sense, although it was kind of unlikely. When the 2023 season ended, it appeared as if Adoree Jackson's days with the Giants were probably numbered. He was coming off of the end of a 3-year contract, which he signed in 2021, a 3-year deal worth $39 million overall. And the first 2 seasons were mostly successful for Jackson. Injuries have always been a bit of an issue for Adoree, but by and large, because it's interesting. Around the time of the Adoree Jackson signing was also the Kenny Golladay signing. So this was under the Dave Gettleman regime in which he came in. And while Golladay was an unmitigated disaster, Adoree Jackson was pretty good. And, 2021 for the team as a whole wasn't very good, but I thought Adoree was probably one of the few bright spots on that team. And then 2022, I thought even took it up another level on what was a good Giant team, at least in terms of record and, winning a playoff game. But unfortunately, in what was really one of the more mind-boggling decisions made by Brian Daboll and coaching staff was to have Adoree Jackson return punts due to the fact that Richie James was injured at the time. There was injuries that led to Adoree returning punts, and so he suffered an MCL sprain in Week 11 against the Detroit Lions. He would return by the end of the season and did play in the playoffs, but that was unfortunate just because he was clearly, the #1 cornerback on the team without a doubt. If you remember the first year that Adoree Jackson was there, James Bradbury was still on the Giants at that point. But Adoree took over that CB1 role, was really good. And then last season, just really from the jump, it wasn't great. Now, it began, if you remember, where they moved him into the slot, which is not where Adoree Jackson is accustomed to. He's always been a boundary cornerback. And that was when they kind of, they thought that Trey Hawkins had a really good, preseason. And so they toyed with that idea and they scrapped it quickly. But really, just even after that, it just wasn't a great season for Jackson. The health really wasn't so much a problem in 2023, but really, it was honestly effort concerns. He was making business decisions. I mean, look, the Giants were not anywhere. Look, that was a team that wasn't going to make the playoffs. And there were just moments in time where he wasn't playing well. I wouldn't chalk it up so much to a deterioration in talent. Look, he is still relatively young, 28 currently, turning 29 soon. And so, again, to me, it makes a lot of sense. I'm not saying that this is going to be like a major needle mover for this Giant team, but that cornerback room was extremely young, therefore inexperienced, and just on paper, not very good. So with Adoree Jackson in the fold now, I don't know in terms of him getting up to speed, just him not having really been in any game action, any practice. Like, will he be ready for Week 1? I don't know. I haven't seen the speculation on that, right? With it being, just a little over a week away. I wouldn't be surprised if he does play, it's kind of more sparingly. What is interesting a little bit, but again, it's not like such a big thing, is that there was overlap with Adoree Jackson and Shane Bowen in Tennessee. So Adoree Jackson's rookie year with the Titans was 2017. Shane Bowen, he joins the Titans organization in 2018, where he was the outside linebackers coach from 2018 to 2020. Now, Jackson's last season with the Titans was 2020. And in that season, a couple of things. Shane Bowen, he takes over. He's still the outside linebackers coach. He's not promoted to defensive coordinator. That happens after Adoree leaves. But Bowen was calling defensive plays in 2020. However, Adoree Jackson gets hurt that season very early on. Placed on IR with a knee injury in September. I guess he was active later on, but he only ends up playing 3 games that season. So while they are, I guess, accustomed to each other on some level, not in a big way. And really, I think if that had been such a big deal, I think there would have been more precedent and more of a need to get Jackson in the mix sooner than they did. So look, I think this is desperation kind of on both sides. But at the same time, it's a pretty good fit because, Jackson has been with the team again, the last 3 seasons, there is that slight Bowen connection, but very minor. And look, the Giants need a cornerback, flat out. There's no way around it. And Jackson, I think, was waiting for something to, develop. Maybe an injury, a cornerback injury on a team. Nothing really came to fruition for him. Maybe he kind of knew all along that this was going to be something that was likely to happen. Where I don't know how that worked in terms of who went to who first, but either way, to me, it just makes sense. And I think if you're a fan of the team, there's just a little sigh of relief in knowing that, okay, you're not throwing out just complete unknowns at such an important position. So look, I think the plan still remains. Deonte Banks, he needs to grow and develop into the number one cornerback on this team. With that said, Adoree Jackson, really at worst, is going to be your other starting cornerback opposite Banks. Look, Cordell Flott, he did not take that job. Like what we saw from him, training camp, preseason, how he got hurt, but all in all, like he didn't do anywhere near enough to grab it. Look, he'll be in the mix, as will Nick McLeod. Drew Phillips is another story entirely. Drew Phillips, he'll be, in the nickel corner spot almost exclusively. But this is what they did. And the corresponding transaction, so to get Jackson on the 53-man roster, it would be Jakob Johnson, who we've kind of seen already go up and down, where he didn't make the initial 53, and then it was Austin Schlottman that got placed on IR, which allowed Jakob Johnson to be on that active roster. But now he is been released, but very, very high likelihood, more than that even, that he will land back on the practice squad. And so, he'll be one of those players that at least early on in the season, he'll probably get those practice squad elevations on game day. I think he's someone that they see as having a role. And they had the luxury of knowing that, Jakob Johnson himself wants to be on this team. They want him. And so that's just easy roster manipulation from their perspective. And just to tie the knot on from the last episode, the 53-man roster discussion episode. And please like and subscribe. That would be greatly appreciated. Javarius Owens, he is officially back on the practice squad, which was also expected. So we'll see. Like I had said, I think we're going to see some more roster moves. But the two players that come to mind that were needed, Greg Van Roten and Adoree Jackson, where these were signings that happened later in the game, way later, months later than the flurry of activity that we saw, because you knew that the Giants really needed another offensive lineman, preferably a starter. And that's what the plan is for Van Roten. The same thing with Adoree Jackson, where this isn't just someone who, if they have expectations with him, they might not ramp him up immediately, but very early on in the season, whether it be week 1, week 2, he is going to be relied upon to take on some pretty big defensive snaps. So it rounds them out a little bit more, gives the Giants, someone who's been in this league, has already accumulated 7 seasons in the NFL, 3 with the Giants. And the Giants are one of the younger teams in the league. So I definitely think it's a good thing. Look, it's not really going to change the projections in a major way. Look, I still think this is not a playoff team. But I think it does help their chances of winning games and maintaining a semblance of stability in that secondary. So again, Adoree Jackson is back. It didn't really look likely at the end of the 2023 season, but there is the return, and Adoree Jackson and the New York Giants come to an agreement on a 1-year contract.